and welcome! I'm the Badger Reborn, and I was tagged to participate in a Wheel of Time book tag by Jenny from LezbiNerdy, who is an excellent voice in the WOT community. If you haven't checked out her videos, you're missing out. I make videos about the Wheel of Time, both books and TV show, so click the subscribe button for more. You can read the list of questions with a link in the video description. I'd love to know what your answers are to these questions, so leave them in the comment section. Here we go. Favorite and least favorite couple. My favorite couple has got to be Rand and Min. From the origin story of Min knowing she'd fall in love with Rand, and Rand being terrified of her, to Rand thinking that she was acting oddly when she sat on his lap and watched him bathe, to her being the only person that he could trust for parts of the story, they are excellent. My least favorite couple, on the other hand, is Moiraine and Tom, probably. It just seems totally unnecessary and doesn't add anything to the story. Is it because Matt needs some reason to bother rescuing Moiraine? I think he would be unable to stop himself because his sense of honor would force him to do it if he knew that he could. It was clearly set up in advance by Robert Jordan, but I'm not sure why. I also used to really like Morgase and Talonvor because it was kind of classic soldier queen type of story, but every time I reread it seems kind of creepy. Talonvor almost comes across as a stalker sometimes, and Morgase just eventually seems to give in to his forcing his love on her. But I want to think of it as a romantic story about persistence. Number 2, unimportant or small moment you'd keep in this show. I already know they're going to have a Badger in the first season, but I hope for a different scene. I want a scene where Rand tells Matt and Perrin that he can channel and may be the Dragon Reborn, and Matt freaks out. This is so on brand for what would happen in the world, especially with Matt, with the way that channeling is viewed. And it also allows Matt to be a flawed character who grows over the course of the series. Him automatically accepting and supporting Rand would be dumb, in my opinion. Now, of course, this might not be in Season 1 if they don't quite get that far, but I think there's probably a pretty decent chance that they will get that far. If not, I hope it's there in Season 2. Number 3, one of my favorite funny moments from the books. This is hard to pick just one because there are so many great ones. I always laugh when Nynaeve is blatantly hypocritical in her own thoughts without realizing it. I think Robert Jordan intended this as a bit of humor, and it's one of the main reasons I love reading the Nynaeve sections, but I know some people don't like it. I think that's because they're not viewing it humorously. The scene where Nynaeve thinks, "Men always seem to think violence could solve anything. If she had a stout stick, she would have thumped all three of them around the shoulders until they saw reason." It's absolutely hilarious, and so perfectly Nynaeve. Number 4, the moment that makes me cry. This is going to be a bit generic, but I always get teary at Nynaeve's Golden Crane speech. I'm not even sure exactly why or what does it for me, but every single time I read that or listen to that, it definitely makes me get a little bit teary-eyed. I really can't wait for that section in the show because just the reaction from the merchant she's talking to and kind of his realization, because it's from his point of view, which is very cool. It's from his realization that first she's an Aes Sedai and then that she's Lan's husband, and kind of what she's telling him, and it kind of takes a minute to sink in with him. And he's not sure at first if he wants to help out, if he was going to commit to it. And then, of course, Nynaeve just sort of pushes him over the edge, reminds him of his heritage and his commitment. And it's just so strong, and it just gets me every time. Number 5, my favorite quote. The one I just mentioned, the Golden Crane, is also one of my favorite quotes, but I'll pick some funny Matt quotes to highlight. Matt is easily the most quotable character in the series, and has both humorous ones and funny ones, but I'll highlight a couple of the humorous ones. First up, "Burn me if I expected to be greeted as if I'd come to steal a pie," which is Matt from The Dragon Reborn. And then, "I'm a gambler, a farm boy, and I'm here to take control of your bloody army," which I always attribute to Matt in the last battle, but it's not actually where it's from. Number 6, a missed opportunity with the One Power. And Jenny mentioned gateways, and I think anything with gateways is an obvious answer, because there's just so many ways that they could and should be used but aren't. However, I think there's evidence that the characters are figuring that out in the story. They're just nervous about experimenting with the One Power. So in the future of the world, I think they will use it for those kinds of things. So my answer is actually going to be a little bit different. I think a missed opportunity with the One Power, and it's just as big, maybe, well, actually bigger than gateways in my opinion, is growing food. We know from Elaida, we even seeing what she's done with the One Power, that you can use the One Power to make plants grow correctly, healthy. She uses it to make flowers grow really well in a garden when everything else is dying. And she does this in multiple places consistently, and it seems to be somewhat easy. She's also in the past told Elaine that Elaine could go with her to a farm picked out, and Elaida would make its crops grow. Elaine doesn't do it because she doesn't want to help just one person when they're not helping everyone. But I see this as such a huge waste. There's so much famine and hunger in the Wheel of Time world. So many people are poor and are dying, and there's starvation all over the place. And the Aes Sedai can grow crops. They're just sitting in the White Tower with that ability. Hundreds and hundreds of Aes Sedai. And they could be going out and growing crops all over the place and feeding the world. And they don't do it a single time. It blows my mind and it makes me frustrated. And it's one of the reasons that I get so mad about the Aes Sedai just being completely ineffective in the story. I think that's part of... Robert Jordan did that on purpose, I think. But, ooh, it grinds my gears. Whew. Next up, question 7. Besides Varen, who's my favorite secondary character? Even including Varen, my second favorite secondary... I knew I would do that. Even including Varen, my favorite secondary characters are Min and Swan. Swan in particular is a really underrated character, I think. She was just as dedicated to the mission as Moraine was. She just had the less exciting political side of things. Her journey through the story is incredible, to the point where the story could be told solely from her point of view, and would still be a full epic fantasy story. Her death is so tragic because she never gets to see the fruit of her hard work and sacrifice pay off, with the light winning the last battle, though she does at least get to see Rand make it there. Number 8. What's a theory I had while reading that was wrong? All my theories are right, so... No, I can't actually remember any of my incorrect theories that I had while I was reading, to be honest. I'm sure I did have some, but I suppose I've blocked them out. One non-theory I had was that Wiremon was not a dark friend. I was actually disappointed when it turned out that he was one. I'll use this as an opportunity to plug an upcoming video that I've made, which is a theory I have about the Dark One. Check that out next week. Or depending on when you're watching this, check it out now. Wait, no. Finish this video first, then check it out. Number 9. What is your favorite Wheel of Time culture and why? Wheel of Time has so many amazing cultures. This is another one that's really difficult to choose. The Aiel are the most fleshed out culture, and Robert Jordan clearly spent a vast amount of time creating so many details of them. The way they incorporate traditional values often linked to Eastern cultures, such as honor and obligation, Giotto, is incredible, and their entire marriage structure is so complicated, but seems so realistic in a way. No part of Aiel culture ever comes across as unbelievable, which I think is a total credit to the writing. I think though I'll say that the one I'm always intrigued by is the Amayar, who are the people who live on Tremalking with the Sea Folk. Jenny actually mentioned them in her video too, but the way their culture is so unique, so peaceful, and almost completely unknown to most of the world is fascinating. Most people in the story don't even know they exist. They make all of the valued Sea Folk porcelain, but they don't care for it themselves. They simply make it to sell to the Sea Folk. Somewhat tragically, they are all dead, after committing mass suicide as dictated by a prophecy of theirs when Rand uses the Choden Call. And the last real question up, number 10, who is a character that would make a good Amyrlin seat? I think I have a great answer for this. I think Sayrin would be a great choice for Amyrlin, and I actually thought she would be named as the series was unfolding, near the end. I guess you could say that was a theory that I got wrong. More of a mild prediction really, since I only started thinking it when Egwene died, so I barely had time to make the prediction before it was wrong. Sayrin is a brown sister, but very different from the brown stereotype. She has a scar on her face and carries a dagger in her belt. She isn't part of the rebel Aes Sedai, but she's in the tower and takes over charge of the group of sisters who are hunting Black Aja. In this, we see her leadership skills, courage, and tactical ability. She's strong in the power and was a sitter in the hall, so she has plenty of experience and a high position among sisters. When the Shan-Chan attack the White Tower, she takes charge of the resistance, which is another example of her leadership given how chaotic the situation was, especially with her being a brown. Sayrin also speaks out about Nynaeve's Aes Sedai test being too hard, and votes to grant her the shawl. Later, she understands a political maneuver Egwene is making, and supports it. After the last battle, she persuades Aitaralda to become king and Cadsuane to become Amyrlin, so I think it's safe to say that Sayrin is one of the most influential and respected Aes Sedai in the Tower at the end of the story. She would easily be my choice. So finally, number 11, tag other creators, which wraps up the question, so I'll tag YouTube channels Nabliss and Another Turning. Nabliss, I'm sure you've heard of him. It's the biggest by far dedicated Wheel of Time channel and consistently produces great content. And he's really been supportive of me starting my channel as well, so really appreciate that. Another Turning is a smaller channel that has both really good in-depth Wheel of Time videos and also videos about other books. Check them both out. Don't forget to give the video a like and subscribe. If you're American, I encourage you to vote if you haven't done so already. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.
like a bird on a tree.